How can runners know that they can tackle a full marathon if they don't do it in training? And why don't we run a full marathon in training?
This is a hot one. And especially for first-time marathoners, they cannot figure out why this is. And for our seasoned individuals who just want to keep going higher and higher and higher in your long run, this one's for you. Today, we're talking about your longest long run and why we do not run a full marathon in training. Trust me, you really don't want to.
All right, so let's just jump right into it. Our longest long runs in marathon training usually cap out at about 18 to 22 miles, or for our time-based folks, around 3 to 4 hours, depending on the plan.
Yeah, and this is really, by design, right? It allows us to build endurance and build practice. We absolutely need to practice training our gut, our fueling, our hydration, our gear. Remember the chafing episode 248, right? But it still allows your body to be able to recover from the effort and frankly get to race day. That's the point, right?
So there are a couple of reasons why we don't actually run that full marathon in our marathon training. And the first is, to me, this is the most obvious one, higher injury risk. So when you're running a marathon, it causes your muscles to break down, and it also causes a lot of systemic fatigue. Like, that is a long time of running. And all of that increases our chance of injury.
A run past 22 miles as well, it provides not a ton of aerobic benefit relative to kind of the sharp increase in your injury risk. Also, let's think about moving time for a second, right? So put your paces of what your goal is kind of to the side for a second. If you run a 20 to 22 mile run as your peak, you're not doing the whole thing at marathon. You should not be doing the whole thing at marathon pace, right?
Yes.
So your total moving time is actually what your body remembers. So when we go to actually race 26.2 and we are beautiful and recovered and fresh and it's 52 degrees on October 11th.
Yep, let's go.
That is going to be a different moving time because it's going to be a faster clip per mile and you're just going to have more pep in your step. Those two numbers can actually be, of moving time, can actually be very, very similar, right? So put that in your pocket, put miles to the side.
Yeah, we also get to leverage cumulative fatigue in these long runs. And that means, we're looking at our entire week, including those weekday runs, as the volume that we're accumulating, not just what you're doing on the long run. So you really have to factor in, and this is the reason why we taper before a race, right? Is so that we're fresh and can show up on race day in a better condition. But for those long runs, we also have to factor in what speed, what tempo, what other runs did you do during the week? And that adds up to, marathon quality when you're doing an 18 to 20 miler.
I would argue that the cumulative fatigue benefits isn't just week to week either. We're looking at week on week on week. Our first endurance coach that we had, Coach K, shout out Coach K. I remember vividly getting into very high volume stuff and I was like, oh my gosh, I should have felt better. I took Monday off and I ran Tuesday and it was crap. And he was like, what are you talking about? You're on week 15 of this plan. This is not just on the day before and I think I had a recovery week the week before, something like that. He's like, it's not just on the day or the week. It is on weeks of chronic fatigue, right? You are not fully tapered and ready for race day until you get to actual race day.
Right.
So, that is real. It is a mountain of fatigue. That's kind of the whole point, right? That's how we establish new fitness. But you might feel like garbage.
Yes. We also have long recovery times after these workouts. So recovering from a full marathon can take up to 3-ish weeks because you're running at race effort. And 26.2 miles is a long distance to cover. So that would, recovering for several weeks after a training run of a marathon would disrupt the consistency of what you were just talking about, of stacking week on week.
Yeah, you're really not going to you will feel like crap on a Tuesday after taking Monday off, no matter what, right?
Yeah. So we need about 2 to 4 days to recover from an 18 to 20 mile run at easy AF pace, right? At our endurance pace. But again, we need about 3 weeks, or the general rule is kind of 1 day per mile that you race.
Yeah.
So
huge. Let's say that again.
Yeah. So the general rule is about 1 day of recovery for every mile that you race. And this is the reason why we can blast through 5Ks on one weekend and race again the next weekend, because your body can recover from that pretty quickly. But when we get into half marathon and marathon territory, we are stretching that out into 1, 2, 3 weeks of recovery time. And recovery time, we've done episodes on reverse taper, which you should check out, but it doesn't mean doing nothing, but for the first week and a half, it does mean no running.
Yeah.
And so that is not going to establish a good cadence of consistency for your marathon training plan.
This is the actual difference between being able to stack consistent training versus trying to do one heroic effort, right? These are very, very, very different marks that is left on the body.
And we need to remember,
fitness only actualizes through the recovery phase, right? So you actually need to be recovered to use the fitness. This is why, people that cram and do, use, let's say, the last 4 weeks of training to do like 12, 14, 18 race. Mentally that might be nice that you got to 18, but you are not going to feel super fresh and really be able to use much of it without giving yourself the proper cutback, relative to maybe what should have been done.
Yeah, that's a great point. And we did an episode about cramming for a race and how you cannot cram for a race, but what to do if your training was less than you wanted it to be. So we'll link that up at the top or in the show notes if you're listening on audio.
So while some runners want to make sure they can do the distance before race day, we heavily suggest that you don't actually do that. We promise you that millions of runners have run not a full marathon in training and have had very successful race days. So if you don't run a full marathon in training, which please, if you're listening to this, you don't, how do you know you can do it? This is such a little whisper in your ear, right? That is asked over and over and over. And I will go one step further. And we were talking about this before we started the episode, that with Ironman training, you typically don't ever go past 17, maybe 18 miles for your long run. And then you're expected to run a marathon after biking 112 miles. But the reason you don't is because it's on top of all of the other swim and bike training, and you would blow yourself up. You would never be able to come back from it, which is the whole point. We would always rather you be 10% undertrained than 1% overtrained. Mm-hmm. And that's the big reason, right, of why you don't run the full marathon. So, fitness builds, again, from total weekly volume and not one standalone. So everything consistent counts for, that's the biggest wallop you got. It's not any one long run that determines what you can do. So stop putting so much pressure on it, right?
True.
It is just a long run on top of a much bigger base that matters a heck of a lot more. What really matters is all of those days and the weeks that you string together to get to race day.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I think this reminds me of people believing in paces in marathon training too. If we do 80% of our work at a slower than marathon pace,
slower,
and 20% much faster than we're going to go, it's hard for people to understand that you will race somewhere in the middle. And so you have to have that faith in your coach and in the plan and just in the universe coming together that you'll be able to hit your marathon pace. And I think it's the same thing for this. You have to believe that you did 20 miles and all of the rest of the training is going to get you to the finish line.
Something that's really important too is that we do not need, and we should not have, all of your longer efforts, let's say 16 and up. We do not need those to go perfectly.
Right.
We really only need one to go well.
Mm-hmm. And that's well, not perfect.
Right. Yeah. No, it should be perfect, right? It's not a race. You're not racing that distance. So you do not need it. When you get one, just put it in your pocket and know that the rest can suck. You can blow up. You have to do them. Mm-hmm. You need to do them. If you're healthy and injury-free, you should do them. But take the pressure off. Your body only needs one to be like, got it. Okay. And it really, when I say body, it's like your cycle syncs up, your nutrition syncs up, the weather syncs up, the terrain syncs up, the fact that you got some decent sleep syncs up. We just need it to kind of sync once, kind of well, and then you're good to go.
Yeah, and a lot of this is for people's brains to believe they want that confidence. They want proof of concept
Yes.
before they go and race. But the truth is, on race day, you're going to be in a very different condition. You're going to be fresh, you're going to be tapered, and you're going to have the energy of the crowd. You're going to have your teammates, the adrenaline, the people there
The
cheering
edge
you
cheer
on.
zone.
Exactly, the Edge cheer zone in Chicago. And you're going to have all of that pre-race rest that's going to be able to provide that final push for when you are going past 20 miles.
So no single effort is going to be the magic sauce for race day, right? But too long of a long run can seriously harm your training and your progress. It's not worth it, right? Our goal is to get you to the starting line as the fastest, strongest version of you yet. Doing too much in training might mitigate that.